NVIDIA, Palantir, C3 AI. So these companies are making seismic waves in different investment circles due to their different direct and indirect involvement in AI technologies. And of course, let's not forget their impressive year-to-date gains. But today, rather than touching on all these different hot AI stocks, I would actually like to cast a spotlight on a lesser-known company that has been operating behind the scenes of this entire AI value chain and secretly profiting from this entire AI boom. So much so that even Warren Buffett, the investing legend himself, picked up their shares back in Q3 of 2022. So keep watching to find out. So today's stock spotlight is none other than, drum rolls please, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, trading under the ticker symbol TSM. So some of you might be wondering, what does this chip making company got to do with the AI revolution? So do show up for our upcoming live online event, the 6th Wave, where you will actually get an AI value chain framework as an attendee bonus to help you better navigate this entire AI investing trend. So registration link will be in the description box down below. Don't wait any further. Some of you might or might not have heard of TSMC before. So here's a quick introduction of this chip making company. So as the name actually suggests, it's a Taiwanese company, and unlike many other competitors that are in the chip making industry like Samsung or Intel, etc., TSMC is actually the largest and most reliable pure play chip manufacturing company in the world. And when I say they're the largest, their competitors don't even come close. So as of Q1 of 2023, they actually make up 59% of the global semiconductor foundry revenue share. 59% of the global revenue share. Incredible. You know what else would be incredible? You smashing the like button, of course. So don't forget to make my day incredible. So compared to its competitors like Samsung and even Intel, TSMC actually does not dabble in businesses of designing chips, but instead, they focus on just manufacturing the chips effectively and reliably with the latest technologies. So I've actually emphasized on this concept of reliability at least twice in the first 2 minutes of this video, so you will understand why later. Anyhow, TSMC is arguably one of the most important companies in the world today, to the point where both major powers today, namely the US and China, are exerting their power and also exerting their influence over the entire chip making industry. So to give you a few examples, the Biden administration has recently launched their first Chips and Science Act, where they are essentially overseeing $50 billion to revitalize the US semiconductor industry. So on top of incentivizing their local companies, they have recently also engaged in activities such as banning companies like NVIDIA from selling their top computing chips for AI to China. On the flip side, however, China has also retaliated by imposing export restrictions on rare earth materials like gallium and germanium, which are used in computer chips and other components in the name of protecting the national security interests. So comment down below, what a time to be alive. However, not straying too far away from the main discussion of Taiwan Semiconductor, some of you might also remember about the investing legend, Mr. Buffett himself, also bought into TSMC not too long ago, back in Q3 of 2022. So this is his opinion of TSMC in the previous Berkshire meeting.
Taiwan Semiconductor is one of the best managed companies and important companies in the world. And there is not, and I think you'll be able to say the same thing 5 or 10 or 20 years from now.
So I think getting the approval of Mr. Buffett himself do speak volumes in terms of the quality and the fundamentals of the business. Casting geopolitics aside for now, don't worry, we will actually revisit this entire Taiwanese concern again later. So interestingly, if you were to look at the revenue share of TSMC, some of their largest customers include AMD, Qualcomm, NVIDIA, etc. So want to take a guess who their largest customer is and how much demand of TSMC's capabilities they are taking up? If you have guessed Apple, then you're absolutely right. So from the A16 Bionic chips in your iPhone to your M1, M2 silicon chips in your MacBooks, they are principally manufactured by TSMC. So in 2021, Apple actually made up 26% of TSMC's revenue. In short, TSMC and Apple are joined by the hip. And surprise, surprise, want to take a guess what is Mr. Buffett's largest position in Berkshire's portfolio today? Yes, you've got it right, it's Apple as well. So I'm definitely not here to speculate, but I do believe that Mr. Buffett does have first-hand knowledge of the prowess and also capabilities of TSMC on a rather intimate level, considering that he has hundreds of billions of dollars invested in Apple. So circling back to the concept of reliability, which I've mentioned at the start of this video, why is it important? So compared to IDMs, which are integrated device manufacturer like Intel and also Samsung, you can quickly observe that there is actually an inherent conflict of interest in the entire business model itself, which has made it a rather tricky relationship between the suppliers and also the customers of many of these chip-making companies. So let's assume that you're Samsung today. So on one hand, you do design and manufacture chips. And on the other hand, you too sell devices such as smartphones on the side under your Galaxy and your Note series. So assume that if today, Apple actually approaches Samsung for chip manufacturing. So in the event when there's a chip crunch and there is limited capacity to manufacture the chips in a short period of time, who do you think Samsung will prioritize first? Their own suite of products or their chip customers, which is Apple in this case, which happens to also be their competitor as well. TSMC on the other hand then takes the position as an independent contractor that focuses purely on the manufacturing side of things, and they are not the least concerned about designing a better, faster or even more efficient chip to compete with their own customers. So back to the main idea of TSMC, why will they benefit from this entire AI boom? So on top of Apple, one of their most important customers today is actually NVIDIA. And all of us are probably aware of the crazy demand around NVIDIA's chips for AI training. So many investors are essentially touting this is the iPhone moment for NVIDIA. And they are essentially describing NVIDIA as the ones that are selling shovels during a gold rush. And by using that same analogy, TSMC is actually the company that is making this shovel. So of course, it's not as simple as attaching a wooden stick to a metal frame to create your shovel for the gold rush. But making such a high-end, intricate chips requires proprietary engineering, and TSMC remains undefeated in this space. And NVIDIA is heavily reliant on TSMC's manufacturing capabilities today. So assuming that the demand of these chips are sustainable in the long run, NVIDIA will need to keep printing and selling more and more of such chips. And this will essentially translate to higher sales volume as they retain and secure the order flow in the near future. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. So it's a Taiwanese company. Warren Buffett buying into TSMC was only the first half of the story, and I will now play the second half, where he essentially sold out a majority of the position in Q4 of 2022, and he explained why he did it.
I don't like its location, and I've reevaluated that. I mean, I don't think it should be any place but Taiwan, although they will be obviously opening up chip capacity in this country. And actually, one of our subsidiaries that we got in Allegheny is participating in their Arizona construction activities. But there's nobody in the chip company, there's no in the chip industry that's in their league, at least in my view. And the man that is a 91-year-old or so that connected with it, that I think I played bridge with, and in Albuquerque, and marvelous people, marvelous company. But I'd rather find a marvelous people. I won't find it in the chip industry, but marvelous people and marvelous competitive position and everything. I'd rather find it in the United States.
So I do believe that it is a running concern amongst many investors today, especially companies that are remotely connected with the US-China tension. But I'd just like to reiterate that it would be catastrophic if a war breaks out between China and Taiwan. However, TSMC will not be the only one that is adversely impacted. Apple, like I've mentioned, would probably be severely impacted amongst many others, like Starbucks, Tesla, Nike, LVMH, to name a few of these global brands. So if an investor were to be afraid of the entire Taiwan-China issue, then I think there are many more companies that are going to be thrown under the bus alongside. So if it bothers you and keeps you up at night, then so be it. You don't have to invest here. But to me, personally at least, I'm rather comfortable because I don't believe that something like that will break out anytime soon. However, a point I would like to add here is, in this current tension around the semiconductor industry, there might be some slight call for concern. So TSMC has also recently announced that they are building a new fabrication plant in Arizona, back in the United States, in the bid of trying to alleviate some of these geopolitical concerns, and also maybe to diversify away from the concentration risk, where most of the production capacity is actually concentrated and situated back in Taiwan. However, the founder of TSMC, Morris Chang, actually made the remark sometime last year that the US efforts to rebuild its chip manufacturing industry were, I quote, doomed to fail, unquote. And there are also ongoing concerns about costs and expectations of the American workforce. So all else said, I think they aren't left with many choices because it is of strategic concern to the US government today. Therefore, in the short term at least, I would expect that this air quotes forced expansion to have an impact on the margins of TSMC as they need to figure out how to better harness their foreign workforce, which is probably and arguably extremely different from their own local workforce. But that said, I do believe that in the longer term, if TSMC is able to maintain the lead in terms of chip manufacturing and continuing to work closely with their customers to provide tip-top manufacturing capabilities, there will be no close alternatives, and TSMC will then be able to easily pass this cost downstream to their customers like Apple and NVIDIA while maintaining their position. So we have talked about the gold mine, which is the AI revolution, and the one selling the shovels during this gold rush, which is NVIDIA, and also the ones making the shovels, which is TSMC. However, if you're really interested in the entire value chain, there is actually another company that sells the machines to TSMC. And if you want to learn to understand more about the entire AI value chain and pick up investing and trading strategies to profit from this revolution, do register for Piranha Profit's live event, the 6th Wave, that is starting this weekend. Registration link is in the description box down below, so we'll see you there. Till then, this is CK from Piranha Profit signing off. Keep winning.